What's up, guys? It's been a crazy couple weeks. I had the mission trip that we went to Harvest Farm, and that's what I want to talk to you a little bit about on this video. I want to talk about my experience. I have an interview with a young man named Colby from a couple of the experiences during the day, and I don't have the GoPro with me. It's still in a bag at home, but I want to share my experience about the week we spent at Harvest Farm, as well as the Tuesday that we went into Denver to the Lawrence Street Community Center that's also run by Denver Rescue Mission, and spent time with feeding homeless people on that day. So that was one week. The next week, trying to recoup, I was tired. It's exhausting working on a farm, and I'll share about that. Tired, trying to recoup, but I still had some stuff that I needed to get done at the church because I wasn't there all week. And then that weekend, we had a man's trip, and I kind of accentuate man's trip because what it really turned into was me, my associate youth pastor James, and then Alec, one of my dear friends and a great help, and James is a dear friend too, but he has a title. But Alec is a guy in the church who's one of my dear friends, and he's helping out a lot with the youth. And so we put together this camping trip, and we thought, man, we're going to go, and we're going. And then Justin, one of our teenagers, great young man, and really got to spend some time with him. And so the four of us went up there, and when our initial intent for that trip was to really challenge the guys, make them build their own fire, make them catch their own dinner, make them fillet their own fish, make them do all that. Man, did that change. One, because it was really the weekend after the 4th of July, because 4th of July this year was on Wednesday, and so people went camping the weekend before, and then some went the weekend after, and we ran into that and couldn't find a camp spot. So we ended up in Guernsey, Wyoming, and when we did that, we didn't realize fishing there almost needs a boat. We shore fished. We didn't catch anything. We went up to Gray Rocks even, and we did not catch a fish. We got a couple bites, but we didn't catch anything. Really disheartening for Alec and I because we always catch fish. But anyways, had a great time fishing, talking and stuff, and making each other laugh. It was a blast. One of the things that we really did while we went camping was we went cliff diving, and I'll tell you about that in a different video, but it's an exhausting experience when you haven't done it and you're a little out of shape. And worked out in like a month, probably like 3 weeks, but it really made me realize that I was a little out of shape, to be honest. But anyways, and then this last week, just trying to recoup and had some stuff to do with Jaylene, and it was crazy. It's crazy. Been a crazy 3 weeks, that's why I haven't had an upload. But I want to talk to you today about Harvest Farm, which is a rehabilitation program. It's a 13-month rehabilitation program. You graduate at phase 3, and you have 4 phases really before you can hit that graduation point. Phase 1 is what they call PC, or Program Candidate. And the purpose of that is to see if you're going to fit in the program, if you like the program. So during that, you're just really you're in your detox mode and kind of coming down. We met a lot of cool people that were in their PC stage. A guy they called Mowgli, a guy they called Graham, and really Graham and I just kind of connected. We really connected right off the bat, like from the get-go the first time we talked. It was awesome. And so during those first 30 days, you're detox, figuring out if you're going to be there, whatever. And then you have phase 1. Phase 1 is where you you start to do work therapy and LEC and all this other stuff. Then you have phase 2 and phase 3, and it just continues through that. They teach you how to write a resume, how to go to a job interview. They hook these guys up free of charge, no charge to them, and it's awesome. Because a lot of other rehab programs charge. And so they charge, and they're 30 to 60 days, and you go and you do your 30 to 60 days and you sober up and you're happy and you leave and you've paid all this money and it's great. And then, a lot of those guys have been to those and say they relapse. Not that they're bad. I'm not saying they're bad or things that don't come good from them. I'm not saying that. But this program, man, is amazing, you guys. I'm telling you, it's incredible. Second year this time we went for a full week and it was a blast. So Sunday we left. We got there at about, we got there at about 2, 3 o'clock. And settled into the cabin, and then we went and watched a movie, which is a blast, of course, because we went to a movie theater, got to have a lot of fun, relax, hang out, eat some popcorn, and just chill out before the work really began the next day. And so we went and saw The Incredibles 2. If you haven't seen it, go see it. I won't say anything about it, no spoilers, except for Jack Jack's the best part of that entire movie. So day 2 would be our first day of work, which is Monday. And so Monday we woke up, we went to breakfast with the guys, we sat through a devotion with them, and I'm telling you guys, hearing them sing is awesome. It's just a great experience. Every time we've been there, every time we've heard them sing, it's wonderful to just hear a bunch of men worshiping God. Now we only got one song, they only do one song a day, but man, was it a blast. And then just encouragement in those devotions, and they have a time of prayer. So you stand in a circle to kind of keep you focused. At first in the devotion, you do praise reports and prayer requests, and just an awesome time. And so we did that, and then we went to our orientation where Heather shared with us what we were going to be doing through the week, the teams that we were going to be on, all that different kind of stuff, as well as, the rules and regulations. Don't, give out your Facebook information, your phone numbers, that kind of stuff. So day 1, I was in maintenance with Jade and Caitlin. My mom was in the kitchen with Jonathan. Colby, Haley, and December went to ag. Now, kitchen, obviously, it is what it is. You're washing dishes, you're cooking meals, you're doing all that stuff. Ag, you are working agriculture, so there's some ag animals that they have. You're scraping pins, you're moving hay, moving irrigation. You're really dealing with the ag department of the farm. And then maintenance is dealing with a lot of the petting zoo animals, moving them, walking them, getting them accustomed to being around people, feeding them, and then they do a couple other things as well. But day 1, so being an ag, got to walk a bull, I got my foot stepped on. I mean, it was a blast. Being back on a farm, I spent a lot of time in Burns on a ranch, and I really miss it, even though at the time I didn't appreciate what it was doing for me. And so after day 1, you're kind of in this feeling out process, day 1 and day 2. You're trying to get to know guys. You're trying to kind of feel out, okay, are they okay with us being here? And then you feel like they're feeling out, like, what do they think about us? Like, it's just intense. And so day 1, talked to a gentleman in maintenance named Dennis. Really cool guy. I mean, really nice dude. Worked well with Jade and Caitlin, trying to kind of get them accumulated the animals, making sure they were okay. Cracking jokes. And I mean, we had a great time getting to talk to him. As well as met a dude named Steven. And Steven has an interesting story because he was, and I'm going to try to keep this video short, so I'm going to give you a real quick synopsis of kind of day by day. And I really want to focus on Tuesday. Steven got locked up for drugs after a car chase. And, but during that time, he accepted Christ. And now his whole, the reason he chose to go to Harvest Farm, one was so that, because, obviously they offered it to him instead of probation, I think. But he wanted to go because he had already been sober for a extended amount of time before he got to Harvest Farm. So then he wanted to go, and he wanted to help people along their journey, and man, was that guy on fire for God. I mean, everything you talked about with him was spiritual and was awesome and it was amazing. And we really had a great talk on Monday. Me, him, Caitlin, and Dennis, and Jay just talking about, making sure that you're doing what God wants you to do and how God has a plan for you, and we don't, need to focus on that, and shared with the kids how, they need to save themselves from marriage, all that good stuff. So then, Tuesday we went into the heart of Denver, and really to the heart of the homeless population in Denver. Lawrence Street Community House. We served over 497 people for lunch. Or I think it's about 497 people for lunch. And we pulled up that morning. We left early. We left right after breakfast. Headed to the Lawrence Street Community Center. Finally found parking. We got parked. When we got parked, walked across the street. Now, the girls ran before us because they had to pee. They had to use the bathroom. Not to be gross, but and they ran in, and my mom called me and was asking where I was at and stuff, and I could kind of hear the nervousness in her voice. And so as the guys, me, Jonathan, and Colby walked across the street, it was heartbreaking and terrifying at the same time. Now, none of them talked, I'm not saying it's terrifying because they were kind of like, hey, can we have it wasn't anything like that. But it was terrifying because you don't know the situation you're in, and you're in an uncomfortable environment that really, I don't think any of these kids have ever been exposed to, where you were literally walking down the street with people sleeping in the shade just to get cool on the hot day. See, they didn't have an air-conditioned place to go back to. They didn't have a bed to go to rest. They didn't have a fan they could plug in. So they laid in the shade of the building so that they could get cool because it was hot outside while they waited for their meal that was coming. So the girls finally, we get them out of the bathroom. We head to the entrance that we have to go to. And as we walk down that street, I just remember, I remember thinking, Lord, don't let anything happen, obviously. But, man, I'm ready. If anything goes down, I'm ready. I'm ready to go, And part of that is because I'm very defensive of our teenagers. Not that they were threatening, not they're bad people. I'm not saying that. But when you don't know and you're in an uncomfortable situation, man, you're ready. And so we went in. And kind of got orientated there, too, on what we were going to do and how we were going to work in the kitchen and all that good stuff. And then, we were asked a lot of questions about homelessness and what we think about people. And one of the things that I honestly have to say is I had a 50-50 mindset. And 50% of my mindset was go get a job, right? Like, go get a job. Get off your butt, get off the street, go get a job. And then the other 50% of my mindset was, man, this could happen to anyone. One bad investment, one mistake, one accident that takes you out of work, and you could be right there. Obviously some of it is a choice, but man, I couldn't help but think about that. And she asked us about what we thought when people were flying a sign, which is what it's called when they hold the piece of paper, cardboard, or whatever, asking for money or gas or whatever. So after that, the actual volunteer head, I think her name's Brittany, came in, and she gave us a tour of the area. So the kitchen, where the people actually eat and how they open that up. Occasionally, not all the time, because Denver Rescue Mission isn't about making it okay in your life decisions. It's about helping you get forward in your life, and it's a Christian-based organization because they believe the only way that the true continual change can happen is through having a relationship with Jesus Christ, which is awesome. So anyways, we get a tour. They have all these different things, obviously Harvest Farm, which they talk to us about. And then they have one that's in the city that's the same type of program as Harvest Farm, but it's just in the city. So if you're not going to like the country lifestyle, if you're not going to, respond well to ranching, then you can live in the city and do a program there that's very similar. After that, we went to the chapel that they had, which was cool. They have an eye clinic. They have, they have an eye clinic. They have doctor's office for basic stuff, basic shots, that kind of stuff. Just awesome what they are able to do at Lawrence Street Community Center in Denver. And so after that, we went down and we got ready to serve. Now, funny story is everybody gets an apron except me. Okay. Now, here's what's funny. So she tells me to go into the bag and get out these aprons, and they're tangled up. And she goes, you know what? I think I want to have one of your volunteers, if you would, kind of stay back and untangle those to help us out. Some of you probably don't know me, but some of you do, and I am not a finesse guy. If something is tangled, my answer is to cut it and move on. Like, cut it, it'll get untangled, we'll move on. The only thing I don't do that with is headphones and my necklace, and normally I hand those to Jaylene because I can't figure it out. I always make it worse. So I sat down with this big ball of tangled blech. Started to untangle it. But one of the things, because I told God, I said, man, this is frustrating, but I know that you have a purpose for me doing this. So what are you trying to teach me? And I have pictures of this big ball and then what it became. And what I realized was sometimes it takes one thing. They threw them in a dryer and they all got tangled. It took one thing. Sometimes it takes us one choice to end up in a decision where we're all tangled up and we didn't even realize we got there. But it's not as easy to get untangled as it was to get tangled. And what I mean by that is we can make that one choice and end up tangled up in all sorts of stuff. All sorts of drama, all sorts of bad stuff going on in our lives. But when we want to get untangled, when we want to take that, for instance, that ball of tangled aprons and put them back on the shelf, it is not as easy as that one choice was. And sometimes, we want to rip and we want to pull at stuff that's tangled and we want to try to throw stuff out of our life, but life doesn't work that way. One decision that took 15 minutes can take years to undo the consequences of that choice. Now, it didn't take me years to untangle them. I managed to get them untangled. But what I realized in that was sometimes you had to finesse it and sometimes you had to pull a little harder. But you couldn't just answer the question by ripping it apart. You couldn't answer the question. You couldn't get those untangled by cutting them because they were needed later. You in your life can't just rip at things and rip at yourself and tear yourself down because of one bad choice. One thing that led you in a certain direction. You need to make the small pulls. Allow God to help make the small pulls. Rely on God to get you untangled. But it's not just praying, God, take this from me. It's working to do that too. Pray like it depends on God. I read this in a book this week. Pray like it depends on God and work like it depends on you. And man, just in that moment, realizing that one bad decision could end up with you on the street. And it isn't just as easy to untangle that decision as we think. Anyways, after that, we went and served, like I said, served 497 people. Great. They didn't really talk. Now, if you said, hey, have a great day or have a blessed day, they'd talk to you. Always thank you, always I appreciate it. But as I watched, I thought, man, how awesome is it that these guys work here and serve here and that people volunteer here to serve these people. It made it easier, really, and this may sound bad, but it made it easier to go back to the farm because those guys aren't homeless. They have a home, Even if they have to share a room with 16 other guys, they have a home and a bed to sleep in. And being in that environment where, the poverty, just the craziness of what was going on was so real. It made it easy to go back somewhere that we were uncomfortable before. And I really think that kickstarted our week of getting involved with those guys. So anyways, after we served, which I would encourage you, if you have an opportunity to go serve at the Lawrence Street Community Center, if you're in the Cheyenne area and you don't mind taking the drive down there, or if where you're at, you have a place that feeds homeless people, I encourage you to volunteer at least one time and experience it. Man, and if you can make it to the Lawrence Street Community Center, do that because it is incredible and will change your perspective. So after that, we did this thing called poverty training. Poverty training's real simple. Really, it's teaching about poverty. So she taught us so some people are people who have made it before, right, and made a bad business decision, or they had an injury or something, and they've had a home, they've lived life, a normal life, as we would say, and then they just end up homeless because of a situation that happens. Their wife left them, and they had nothing, or their husband left them, and left them with nothing, or I lost my job and everything kind of fell apart. I made a bad investment and I lost everything, couldn't pay my house, whatever it may be. And those people tend to get off the street because they know if they can just get their foot in the door that they can make it out. But then there's generational poverty or homelessness. And what that is grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, they were homeless. They lived in poverty. I'm going to do the same thing. Nothing can change. So the differences between the two is the first one that I talked about. They see the light at the end of the tunnel. They see the way out. The second group, that's how it's always been. That's how my family has always lived. That's how it's always going to be. They don't see that change is possible. And I thought, man, that's crazy because as Christians, we do the same thing. This is the way mom and dad always worship. This is the way grandma and grandpa always worship. That's the way that it has to be. But then you get a new Christian that just gets saved. The first one in their family, and man, they're on fire. And they see how the gospel can be presented in many different ways and how the traditional model of church doesn't necessarily mean the right model of church for where you're at. And we do the same thing, but the difference is it didn't lead to homelessness, but they're both catastrophic and can be. If we stay doing the same thing that we did 80 years ago, even though it worked 80 years ago in churches, it's not going to work today. It won't. And so, but I thought, it's the same thing there. Just because mom, dad, and grandma and grandpa did the same thing, just because they lived in poverty doesn't mean you have to. And just because your grandma and grandpa and mom and dad worshipped a specific way doesn't mean that there's not, I don't want to say better, but that there's not a new way that God can use the new things that we have to move. So after that, we did our poverty training. We left there at about 3 or 4. We grabbed some food. We went back to the farm, and had dinner with the guys and met up with them. And I was in a Tuesday, but man, what a eye-opening experience! And it really changed my perspective, because homelessness, one, doesn't always mean hopelessness, and two, it's not always their choice. Now, sometimes it is. Talking to Graham, he was homeless, and it was his choice. So yeah, that's there, but it's not always. Sometimes people don't know any different. So then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just worked on the farm, kind of rotated in and out. Now, cool story that happened with my team. Caitlin and Jade got to see a baby calf take its first steps. Awesome experience. I'd never seen a calf take its first steps before. It was really cool. The calf had been born while we were at lunch. Came back, feeding them some more, and it was just awesome. I can't describe it, but it was just so amazing. But one of the things that I really liked about while we were there this year is, one, we got to connect with all the guys. And, I mean, between Damien and Taylor and Steven and Jordan and Bryson and Dennis, I could go on and on and on about the guys that we really got to talk to, was that I feel like this time we really went and served more than last time. We got to serve with them, we got to spend time with them and invest in them, and it was awesome. One of the things that our pastor's wife, Miss Deb, who's also my mother, she went with us to cover because I couldn't find I hate to say this, I couldn't find a younger person to come with us. One of the things that she did was, I kept my mom in the kitchen because I didn't want her to overheat. But one of the things that she did was, she spent her own money to buy fresh ingredients, fresh baking ingredients, to cook for the guys, and made them dessert every night from Wednesday to Friday. They loved it because they get a lot of stuff from the food bank. So if they get dessert, normally it's like stale or a little outdated, a little dry, whatever. If they got homemade dessert, which some of them haven't had in who knows how long, and they loved it. By the end of the week, they wanted to kidnap my mom. But her heart was to give them something that they didn't always get, to make an impression and to let them know how much she loved them. And man, they loved, I don't know why, but wherever my mom goes, people love her. It's an awesome thing. So then the other thing that happened with that was, we found out it was Dennis's birthday. My mom, we're sitting there talking, and she goes, I'm going to go get him a cake. Now, I'm thinking a little mini cake, whatever, little piece of cake, like whatever, something small. My mom comes back with a whole sheet cake. She's got this whole sheet cake that says, Happy Birthday, Dennis. So we get into the cafeteria, and she goes, Happy Birthday, Dennis, blah, blah, blah. Everybody sings happy birthday to him. And he was so excited about that cake, he talked about it the rest of the week. It meant a lot to him because she went out of her way and got her a specific cake. Now, we can't do that for everybody there because we're not there all the time. But man, that was an experience, because you got to watch this guy who just almost melted, like, oh, I love you, like, you're so awesome, thank you. And I don't even know if he ate the cake. Honestly, I don't know, because he didn't eat it there. I think he went and put it in the dorm room, and just, it was like one of those things where it's like, yeah, man, I got a cake. Like, it was cool for him. But to sum up the week, my challenge to you would be, don't judge those that you don't know their situation. Don't judge those that you don't know their situation. If you don't know why somebody's in a situation, don't just automatically assume it was bad choices. Don't just automatically assume that someone was an alcoholic because they just love alcohol. Part of it comes, as we were talking to them, I learned something. Addiction is not the disease. Addiction is a symptom of the issues that they have going on, whether it be depression or, they were abused as a child and, never really deal with that. Don't just assume that they're drug addicts specifically because they like drugs. Sometimes, drug addict, and a lot of the time, it comes from past hurts that were never dealt with. And it comes from not having a relationship with Christ. Honestly, not that people who have a relationship with Christ don't get addicted to drugs. I'm not saying that. But when you don't have a relationship with Christ, makes it very hard when you're going through hard times. I'm blessed to have a relationship with Christ. So when I go through hard times, in another video this week, I'm going to share about what happened Saturday. But in those hard times, having that comforter, it's a blessing, even when we don't see it. So don't judge people because of their situations. But be willing to go and talk to them and learn their story. It may change your outlook. Second thing is, always make time to serve people who can never serve you back. Take the time and serve people who can never serve you back. Go serve at a homeless shelter. Go serve at a rehabilitation center. Serve people who can't necessarily serve you back. Have an attitude of service where it's more about them than it is about what you get out of it. Man, going in, I love working hard. I work at a desk now, so getting out, getting my hands dirty, getting stepped on by cows and headbutted by bulls, it was a blast, man. It was so much fun. But we need to learn to take time away from our busy schedules and serve others regardless if they can serve you back. So next time you're driving down the road and you see someone flying a sign that says, hey, I need help, why don't you pull over? I'm not saying just throw money at them, but why don't you pull over and ask them, hey man, what's going on? Pray with them. Maybe slip them some cash. Maybe you get a $15 food gift card that you carry around in your wallet or in your car for the opportune moment where you can be a blessing to someone who has nothing. I mean, you can't tell me that you probably don't spend $15 a month on eating out. You just gave someone 3 meals. More if they use value menu, which I'm not going to lie, if I was homeless, someone gave me a $15 gift card to like Subway, man, I am getting a meal, I'm getting a foot long, I'm enjoying that thing. That's me. But I'm also a big guy. I like food. It's just what I do. Don't think of people as the world sees them. Think of people as Christ sees them. And be a blessing to everybody you come in contact with. Peace out and be blessed.